Was Kamaru Usman robbed at UFC 294? Does Khamzat Chimaev deserve a title shot? Is Islam Makhachev the best fighter in the world? And where does Alex Volkanovski go from here? Let's get right into the meat and potatoes of UFC 294 to find out. We'll kick things off with the co-main event between Kamaru Usman and Khamzat Chimaev because there is so much to discuss about it. The scorecards were all over the place thanks to a dominant first round by Khamzat Chimaev, who backpacked Usman throughout. Now, was the first round a 10-8? It was certainly dominant, but Chimaev didn't do enough damage for it to be a 10-8. The second round was lackluster, with both men fighting on their feet. Usman landed the better shots and deservedly won the round. The Nigerian upped the ante in the third and blasted Chimaev with big shots, forcing the Chechen into panic wrestling. Chimaev scored the takedown and won that round as well on 2 scorecards, earning the victory by a majority decision. Considering that it was a title eliminator, Chimaev didn't do enough to earn a shot at champion Sean Strickland, who, by the way, was offered to replace Paulo Costa before Usman jumped in to save the day for Chimaev and the UFC. Imagine asking a champion of all people to step in on short notice to fight a contender. That's how much the UFC wants Chimaev to be their champion, and there's a good reason for it. The guy is an absolute monster. He wrestles like a freak and mauls people. I mean, taking Usman down and holding him there isn't everyone's cup of tea. Chimaev secured numerous takedowns during their fight and held position for a significant amount of time, for which he deserves a lot of credit. He showed that he is a championship-level fighter. But is he ready for the title fight just yet? As good as Chimaev was with his wrestling, he was getting lit up on the feet by Usman. Part of it was due to the fact that he broke his hand in the first round, but still, Usman looked the sharper fighter on the feet. And who knows what would have happened if Usman had a full camp and it was a 5-round fight. Interestingly, Usman was offered a 5-round fight at UFC 294, but he asked the UFC for a 3-round one. He's surely regretting it. Personally, I'd love to see a 5-round fight between the two next. Yep, the UFC should run it back for a 5-round main event early next year, giving Usman ample time to prepare for it. If Usman can trouble Chimaev on short notice, and presumably with an injury he may have suffered during open workouts, imagine how entertaining a proper rematch would be. Now, the UFC may do UFC things and give Chimaev a title shot, which would be fair, to be honest, but there's no way Chimaev deserves a title shot over Dricus du Plessis at this point in time. That's because battering a former middleweight champ and finishing him in less than 10 minutes is certainly more impressive than beating a short-notice welterweight by a majority decision. So if Chimaev beats du Plessis to a title shot, that'd be unfortunate. Du Plessis deserves it, and Chimaev needs a better performance. If not against Usman, then maybe against Jared Cannonier or Marvin Vettori. I wouldn't mind a rematch with Paulo Costa either, because they have a score to settle. The Brazilian was in attendance, watching Chimaev from a distance. He definitely wants to fight him. At the end of the day, it'll all be up to the UFC. They'll do what they feel is best for the division. If they can ask Strickland to fill in for Costa, they can and probably will give Chimaev the title shot next. Khamzat is super talented, but a majority decision win over an injured, short-notice ex-welterweight champ isn't nearly as impressive as a one-sided knockout over a fully prepared former middleweight champ. So the bottom line is that Dricus du Plessis should be next for Strickland. Now, let's turn our attention to the main event between Islam Makhachev and Alexander Volkanovski. The first fight between the two was highly contested. Makhachev won by a majority decision, but many thought he should have lost because the Aussie won 3 rounds to 2. Since Charles Oliveira was originally expected to face Makhachev at UFC 294, Volkanovski only had 2 weeks to prepare when he was asked to step in for the Brazilian, who injured himself. Unlike their first fight, the second one wasn't even close. It's true that Volkanovski may not have been operating at his best since he had little time to prepare, but he looked great since he managed to outmuscle Makhachev on a couple of occasions. It was brewing to be another cracking contest. At least that's what the majority of MMA fans thought, but Makhachev was subtly setting traps, particularly with his kicking game. Now, Makhachev didn't use a lot of kicks in the first fight. He looked to close the distance and go for takedowns, which meant that he had to fight Volk in the boxing range. This time around, Makhachev fought at range and used his size and reach to his advantage. He started off with leg kicks and then landed a couple of thudding body kicks. Makhachev even landed a nice head kick in the second minute of the fight. Since Makhachev uses the exact same movement to go for a body kick and a head kick, he's hard to read, which is why Volkanovski was caught in two minds at 3 minutes and 6 seconds of the first round. Makhachev attempted a kick, and Volkanovski slightly lowered his guard, thinking that his opponent was going to the body. But before he could put his guard back in place, it was a little too late. Makhachev's kick had already cracked his head, forcing his eyes to roll back. The follow-up hammer fists were questionable. They seemed to land on the back of Volkanovski's head, but he was already out cold before he hit the mat, so it was the referee's job to save him in time. Nevertheless, it was a beautiful and far more relaxed performance from Islam Makhachev. He didn't rush, he didn't let the moment get to him, he didn't panic wrestle. He trusted in his striking ability, set the trap with body kicks, and then stopped Volkanovski for the first time since 2013 with a brutal head kick. Makhachev couldn't have asked for a better performance. It was a statement victory, and a befitting end to his rivalry with Volk. The big question is, who's next? If Ali Abdelaziz works his magic, Justin Gaethje will be next. Gaethje even tweeted that, "I'm next," right after Makhachev stopped Volkanovski. Considering Gaethje stops the takedowns, that would be a great fight, but can Gaethje stop the takedowns? That's the biggest if. Gaethje knows he has a mountain to climb. Charles Oliveira is still pretty much in the conversation as well. But at this moment in time, Makhachev looks unbeatable. There isn't a lightweight in the UFC who can beat him. Good luck to all the strikers who'd have to deal with his world-class wrestling, and good luck to the grapplers who hope to stand and trade with the calculated kickboxer that the Dagestani has become. If all goes well, Makhachev should jump up to the #1 place in the pound-for-pound rankings. Although he may have to share the spot with John Jones because the GOAT isn't going down a place, especially when he's fighting next month at UFC 295. Maybe the UFC should let Makhachev have some fun for a month, unless Stipe Miocic pulls a rabbit out of his hat. For Volkanovski, it's time to go back to his division, where he has a seriously tough test to handle in the shape of Ilia Topuria. The undefeated Georgian is a mean machine who's excellent on the mat and on the feet. He's very similar to Volkanovski in a lot of areas, which is why the fight is expected to be an absolute barnbuster. For now, Volkanovski's dreams of becoming a champ are far from turning into a reality. He'll have to rack up a few big wins to make his way back up. And if Makhachev is still the champion by the time Volk makes it, I wouldn't mind a trilogy between the two. Because let's be honest, Volk definitely wasn't 100% ready. He deserves a proper rematch with Makhachev, but he'll have to work really hard for it. All in all, UFC 294 was an entertaining card, capped off with an exceptional knockout victory by Islam Makhachev. The future definitely looks bright for the winners. What do you guys think? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. To stay up to date with the latest happenings in the world of mixed martial arts, please subscribe to Takedown MMA and turn on those notifications. Thank you for your continued love and support, and we'll see you in the next one.